Welcome, Mick Foley. Hi,
Thank
buddy.
you, Jim.
How are you?
Thank you, Sam.
The hair, I didn't recognize you without the hair. It looks much more comfortable.
It's way more comfortable. It was what we're here. You were going to talk a little bit about the memoir today, and I'm not forcing you guys into mentioning it right away. I'm just saying, stemming from my portrayal last year, I had bleached the back and front of my hair. Right, so if I have this wig, and if a child were to see, it would be white or
that's commitment.
All right, commitment.
Yeah.
But I was also the WWE general manager. And that looks awful. You know?
There were some weird moments on WWE TV when you were going through your Santa phase.
Because I had to take a white beard and dye it.
Yes.
And I see people, who's he think he's hitting with that jet black beard? It's like, dude, I'm working on something here. But anyway, I went with never a good idea when a grown man takes a pair of scissors and starts cutting their own hair. Right. And the more I cut away the back, the more damage I did. And then I just showed up in New Orleans and said, just take it all off.
You're full Manson right now with the beard and the hair.
That's right.
It's full Manson.
Prison Manson. Now, you got to keep the beard for Santa because it's important that you have a real.
Well, do you still
beard.
like Christmas or do you hate
it? No, I've not grown sour on it. I shave every the December 28th and then just start over, man.
Now, do you shave it clean?
No, because my wife thinks I have a soft, doughy-looking chin, so
at least the marriage is strong.
Yeah, so I
lovely.
keep just enough. So and then I start all over.
I like that you're not like that's your grooming style is. Take it all off and then let it all come back.
But once you get it off, right? Then as soon as I showed up, my son is 14, who does a killer Sam Roberts imitation, by the way.
Does he really?
Oh my!
So everyone hates him.
He walks around the house just randomly going, "Noel, I know your father." And he's 14. I've had short hair. The second time I've had short hair in 30 years. I walk in the door and he recoils and he goes, "You don't even look like my dad." And he wanted me to grow it out. And I was like, if you do it once, it's a mistake,
Yeah.
Keep it for a year, then it's a look.
How do you like it now, though?
I do like it, I do like it. And honestly, I look back at when I was Raw GM and I had the long hair and the long beard, and I can't believe I, was an authority figure with that look.
Are you still the GM?
Nah, I got fired in spectacular. Why?
Why'd you get fired?
Well, I honestly, I needed to have my hip replaced and my knee replaced, and so there was going to be a lot of downtime. And they could have, I could have waited.
Sure.
But Kurt Angle was available, and man, that's a tough job. It's like just you go out there, you travel quite a bit. For me, just with the horrible pains, which thankfully are going away. It was just tough to get on those planes and.
But the money loss is a big hit, right? All of a sudden you have a gig, now you don't.
Well, Jim, I actually do better on my own. Anyway.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah. So for anyone that I was doing that job for the money, that's incorrect.
All right, good.
And I wanted to be true to that job, so I didn't do outside stuff while I was doing it. But as soon as the gig was up, and it was a great gig, and as soon as you start that job, for anyone who knows WWE, the authority figure, it doesn't have a lot of long-term, job security. And really, the best you can hope, especially I've got Stephanie McMahon, who's a great, great on-air character. I just want to be fired in spectacular fashion.
just get to somewhere, yeah.
Fired in spectacular fashion, help someone's, on the show, their story along the way, and hopefully, help out a few guys along the way. And I couldn't have asked for a better firing. We got it involved in a storyline, and then Stephanie wrote I'll say beautiful forward for my book.
Oh, nice.
Beautiful forward.
So Vince said no, and then she was available?
No. Look, I'm not knocking anybody, but most forwards, right?
Yeah.
When Stephanie, I was getting worried. My publisher said, "Hey, just see how she's doing," and we haven't heard anything. And I said, "Steph, not to rush you, but any word on the progress?" She said, I should be done with my first draft this week. I'll be sending it out for proofreading." I was like, first draft? And I said, I wrote DDPs in 90 minutes while I watched TV, But then it kind of shows that you wrote it in 90 minutes. So when that thing came out, I mean, we were just, it was good, you know.
How long is the forward? I read it. I wrote a couple recently, that's why I'm asking.
Yeah, it's probably 3 pages.
Yeah, okay, that's what I figured. Good.
But 3 pages, really, but it's really good. Arguably better than anything that's in the book itself. So you might want to buy it just for that.
Although, I mean,
No, the book is good.
I feel like there is pressure to write your forward because maybe at first it was like, oh, what do you mean Mankind wrote a book? But now you're an author. Like, people know you can write. And so it's like, if you're going to write the forward for Foley's book, it actually has to be something
I believe she did
worthwhile,
feel a little pressure.
you know?
I believe she felt a little pressure.
She did.
How is it working with her on screen? Is it different now? Is the pressure different now than it was?
It was
you know?
it was really helpful for me because as celebrated and exciting as my career was, I did some things may not have been wise, you know, and so I went through
Health-wise, you mean?
Health-wise, concussion-wise, and so the short-term memory isn't what it once was. So I can, through constant repetition, I can commit things to memory. When it comes to doing like the show on stage, you know, it's a combination of, you know, recalling things, working on things, ad-libbing, and then I'll have the Pete Davidson showed me the magic marker on the back of the water bottle.
I never thought of that. I'll have notes on a stool, but you do have some notes.
No, I don't have any. I do when I go out there. I have that's what Pete showed me. He puts on the back of the water bottle, and so you go to take the drink, and so I don't get lost. But out there in WWE, you have nothing. So right before we went out, I said to Stephanie, Stephanie, I'm going to get lost out there. I'm not going to panic because I know it's going to happen. But if you would be there with like a couple of words to get me back on track, that'd be really helpful. You know?
And this was like every time or one?
This is the first time, sure. And so I knew I was going to blank out and get lost. I didn't know I'd get lost in the first 10 seconds. The next day, one of the Spanish announcers says, "Did Stephanie say 4-alarm fire to you?" I said, "Yes, she did." So I went out there. "It's great to be right back here." And she goes, "4-alarm fire. 4-alarm fire." And it got me back on track. So she was really helpful to work with, really, really a professional. Like, you never see her with a false move, and just a good person to work with.
How many concussions have you had?
You know what? Well, I used to count it as 8, but those were like, all right, I'm throwing up, you know, the major. Then as we learn more, we like the Boston Center for Traumatic Encephalopathy. I think they changed the name now, but as long as I can continue to say those words, I know I'm okay.
CTE, right?
CTE, yeah. Then they start saying, well, how many times have you seen stars? And I was like, oh, now we're getting into the hundreds, you know? Like,
wow.
That was like the sign that something looked good if you saw stars, you know? And that they didn't know it wasn't necessarily getting hit in the head, but like a lot of the stuff it was like really just high impact body blows, you know, like off the ring apron.
Because that also shakes your head.
Shakes your head up.
Yeah.
So I couldn't even guess, you know. But with WWE having that impact test, that really saved me, because when I took that and it was clear that there was a problem with the short term memory, you get two neurologists independent of each other, just both saying, "No, you're done."
So have you had? Are you scared now of what's going to happen? Have you had like a scan done?
I don't want to say scared. Concerned.
Okay, yeah, you are.
Mick Foley doesn't get scared.
And you know, you guys were nice enough to have me on when I was starting, you know, with the comedy or one man. They kind of graduated in one man shows. When I went to Just for Laughs, and I was trying to like run from my wrestling past, you know, and then I go to Just for Laughs, and I look around, and I'm like, there's 250 funnier people in this building, you know, and I'm kind of chasing people away from the thing that makes me, you know, gives me a voice. So I kind of accepted it, and once I like started working within those confines, I found it was a lot more fun. You know, I kind of found my voice, but it was really serious for me for a couple of years as a way of exercising my mind. And I hope I'm okay. Like, I was out there and I was working on writing a book. You know, like it's almost as if instead of your body having trouble and having to work on that, you know, if your mind's been through some difficulty, you got to find ways to exercise it.
And you could also, being the wrestler is not, it's a thing that makes you, like you said, it gives you the voice, but you can still talk about anything. You could still, that's just your base. You're not limited to what you can talk about.
I consider it like a tether. So it's like a tether. Here's your wrestling. I can go off it. I can talk about anything as long as I bring it back to how it happened through somebody I met in wrestling, and it seems to work that way.
And you can give opinions. You're still Mick Foley, a guy they like.
Yeah.
They're not coming to see you to take bumps in the ring or whatever. They like you, so they want to hear what you have to say and what your opinions are, and they just enjoy you. So I think you'd be surprised how far you can go with that without. You don't even have to tie everything into wrestling. I think the people just like you in general.
I think you're giving. I think you're giving everyone involved far too much credit.
I possibly am.
Is it difficult to be an on-screen like authority character and know that you cannot take bumps? You cannot have a match.
It is, because I think that was one of the limiting, one of the factors that limited me, is that on-screen guy's got to be able to stand up like once a year.
Right.
You know, and say, hey, who do you know, like I'm Kurt freaking Angle, you know, like that's you'd have to believe Kurt's got another one in him. If I could have done one match a year, there'd be there was a Triple H and I had great chemistry, you know, and playing off Stephanie, and it would have been easy to work in a match if I was capable of doing it. But it's for the best. But that's one of the limitations. If you can't physically get involved once in a while, you can't do quite the job.
And it seems like that's happening more too, because Daniel Bryan's got the same thing. Like, the more people know about concussions, the more likely it is that somebody's like, you know what? I know you don't feel like you're done, but you're done. And then it becomes this thing like, we can use you over here, but you can't wrestle.
Yeah, Daniel got cut. At least when I was evaluated and told I was done, I was only working one match, a year or so. Mm-hmm. Daniel was in the prime of his career, and just had made like that first year of good money, and it was devastating to him.
Yeah.
To me, it was kind of a relief, to actually have. It was like the different. It was like having your manager throw in the towel for you.
What is he doing now?
He's the general manager of SmackDown, and he also just had a child.
Okay.
With his wife Bree. I think life's pretty good for the two of them.
So it sucks when it happens, especially when you're younger. But in 20 years, you're probably like, wow, I'm glad it happened then. So he's just got to get through this period and go like, oh, okay. When you look back and you realize I took a lot less hits in the head than I had to.
And the trick is, and this is something I write about in my book.
You have a book out? Oh, perfect. It's called, is this Saint Mick? It's called saintmickbook.com. Are you doing signings, by the way?
Yeah, I begin tonight in Ridgewood, New Jersey at Bookends. Tomorrow.
Great place.
It's one of the best independent stores.
Barnes & Noble, Tribeca tomorrow.
Right.
Huntington Thursday.
Book Review, another great store. And then the next week we go to...
Jeez, the schedule is great.
Suburb of Cincinnati, Joseph Beth, bookseller, Santa Claus, Indiana, at the Santa Claus Museum.
Oh boy, that's going to be a big one,
right?
Yes, I see you already have your Santa shirt on.
Oh man, I'm ready to go. But in the book, I talk about the fact that the hardest thing for almost every wrestler is trying to find something that makes them feel like they did when they were out there.
Oh,
and so for me, getting on the stage granted, there are nights when things do not go well.
Sure.
But then you really learn from those nights, and then you end up getting material from those nights.
Do you tape them? Sorry, do you tape them?
You advised me to tape it.
With a GoPro, every set.
Every set, I can't stand listening myself.
You don't have to. Sometimes you do it with a video camera. You have someone put like a little GoPro video, and if there's a moment that you say that you're not sure of, you can go back and watch it, and you have to watch a minute of yourself.
But you don't watch.
Of course not.
And review.
No. Sometimes you just knowing that you're taping. Your mind goes, I can do anything right now because I have it.
Okay.
I won't lose it. Especially if you're concerned that your memory might not be what it was. If you videotape every moment, look at it like maybe you'll do a documentary on it someday. Maybe you won't. But if you do something that's amazing, like, fuck, what was that? Oh, I have it.
Even if something gets a laugh, like, how did I word that?
Yes. And if you never watch it, it still frees you up mentally because you know you're taping. And when you're freed up mentally, you know you can go anywhere and you'll grab it.
I will do that.
Yeah, it's helped me a lot. The GoPro, have a GoPro hooked up. They're a few $100. It's a write-off.
I like that.
But you know,
for a second, Mick was like, "Yeah, you just lost me."
It's worth doing.
I'm pretty tough on myself, you know, and I want to make every show a little better. And there's times where I know that, and you probably sometimes hang on to something and discard it because you can't find it.
Yeah.
And this is like, you can say any words you want here, right? Like,
Yeah.
And one of the things I do, I only curse once in a set, right? But
just start with the C.
no, one F-bomb. One F-bomb. But I was trying to talk about how when Kevin Sullivan asked me about my finish when I was going to be wrestling the Steiners in 1989, it caught me out of the blue as I saw my name against the Steiners, contemplated quitting the business, as others have, as they can be really rough. And then Kevin Sullivan, brother, what's your finish? And it just caught me. I just said, I drop an elbow. And so what I was saying was, now, an elbow, without further explanation, can seem weak, benign, and I said borderline pussy-esque. and it wasn't getting a reaction. You know, like I was like, I know that there's got to be a way to make this work. And then one night I went out there and I said, an elbow drop for a finish without further explanation may seem weak, benign, borderline Hogan-esque. And then it went. Then we get the and how here comes the reaction, and I went, he's not here tonight, is he? And then I went, sorry, brother. And I got the three. I got the three laughs.
Sure.
I was like, man, I got it. And it was really rewarding that way. So I like that process of going out on the roads. I'm going to be going out April, May, and June for the first time in a couple of years.
And and let that be a note to young comics too, that if you're struggling with something, replace the word pussy with Hogan.
Absolutely, exactly. Her Hogan really stunk.
And I
ate her Hogan.
I like the Hulkster, man. I like the Hulkster, but there's those moments you decide, like, am I going to get a laugh, or am I going to, be?
Or you're going to get kicked right in the Hogan.
Yeah, exactly. Nothing worse than that.
When was the last time you bombed?
like on stage?
Yeah, on stage. Yeah.
Well, I haven't done. Oh, I haven't done. Well, I hadn't done it in a while, but I just finished. Okay, drew a line in the sand. April 2016, I'm done, and then we did the reality show, and they want me to do a set for the reality show.
How come you didn't want to do it anymore?
You know what happened to me? And maybe you can advise me on this. I went out there with a bunch of things I wanted to do. And this is after watching Tig Notaro's set where she talked about her breast cancer.
Cancer, sure.
And I'm like, well, man, I'm going to talk about this journey I had through, these head injuries. And I had a bunch of stuff. And it was like after 10 days, like, this is not what people want to hear.
Well, you're also looking at Tig, though. She was a seasoned comic.
Yeah.
Like, she had been on the road for probably 10 years before that, or 11 years. So if you're going and you're tackling something that's a little bit harder or a little, like, where the humor isn't naturally going to pop out, that might be a muscle you need to work a little bit, but you shouldn't give up. You should just keep trying it. And if they don't want to hear it, well, then you tell it in a way where they do want to hear it. But you just got to give it some time.
I could sense that people didn't want to hear about the head. I couldn't. Maybe there was a way. But, Sam and I were just talking about the fact that these shows coming up in next spring are going to be 20th anniversary of Hell in a Cell. So it's based on that one show. So I'm going to write the show around one match 20 years ago. And so I said it's almost like when Springsteen does The River. You can't walk out and be upset that he did The River because the name of the thing is The River. But when I was reading his biography, they said like there were some albums like The Rising that caught on with everyone, and the new songs went over big. And then he had to admit at a certain point, like there was one album that just wasn't connecting. And then you just say, okay, we're not going to force them on people. We're not going to play them. And that's kind of how I felt. And then so I went back and I was like, all right, let me finding old pieces of material, bringing them in, and it wasn't as fulfilling for me. And so I just felt like I'd been running hard for 6 straight years and going through a lot of material. And I said, I'm just going to take a break, and I'm going to come back when I really want to do it, which I do. But going back to bombing, I went in and did a show just for our reality show. And it was one of those nights where they have a fundraiser going on. Oh. And so there's...
Those aren't good nights?
Dreadful. Dreadful.
Why?
Because they fucking a bunch of people who don't belong on a show. They're donating money. They're shit. I'd rather hand over money and then just trash whatever the project is.
And I'm trying to get reactions from my thing. And I said, and they just keep, and they're talking. There's like 50 people there. They're raising money for the cause. I said, well, okay, excuse me, what is your cause? And they give me things because I will write you a nice check if you just leave. You know, like the only laugh I got.
Oh, you said that, okay.
You know, and it's frustrating.
But everything else was just nothing.
Well, you know, it was just throwing stuff out there just for the sake of getting some lines on the show. So I could say I kind of bombed there, but it's healthy. You know?
You may be surprised if you went up at the LA Improv or other places like that, just as Mick Foley, and a lot of people would know you, some may not, and you start from that and you go, hey, I was a wrestler, and you almost talk to people who don't know you as intimately, you might be surprised how much more they want to hear about head injuries, because they're not looking at you like you're fucking Mankind. They're just looking at you like, hey, here's this interesting guy. He's obviously built like a wrestler, and he has something to tell us that we don't know. You might be surprised how well you do with crowds that aren't there to see you.
That's a good point.
And you should try it because you want to talk about it.
I was talking with a guest you had on recently, Aaliyah Janine.
Yeah, sure, she's sweet.
And I was like, maybe I would. Would you mind if I tried a couple of your shows? You know, like she has an all-female and like one token guy. So to go out there and like be in like an environment that's not there for me. Like yesterday I was asked, and I did a live signing, and I said, the live signing deal where they film you and you're signing and answering questions. And I said, pet question, what's your pet peeve? And I knew what I wanted to say, but I was like, I know this is going to sound. I said, my pet peeve is the guys who go out there and do Q&As. The wrestlers. I said, because there's no commitment, there's no work, there's no sense of failure. I'm so thankful for those days I had where I just bombed. Like, I'm thankful for the one day in particular Judah Friedlander was there, because if Judah hadn't been there when I tanked at the Gotham one night, I never would have gone on stage.
Really? Oh, you took a good ball munching, huh? Oh, it was I wish I'd seen that.
And it's like, in wrestling, things are going poorly. You can always pull out a big move. If you're losing a crowd and you don't know how to get them back, it can be the most. I'm a guy who's known to take a lot of pain. Trust me, the mental anguish from sucking is nothing I did in the ring compared to that night in Gotham, where I just hoped that a hole would open up in the stage so I could jump.
That was the worst. That's amazing.
Because it's exposing. It's like, oh my God, they see me for what I am, which is this fucking uninteresting lump. It's like being under a spotlight and they're asking you a question and you don't have the answer for it. But yeah, it happens to all of us. And no matter how long I'm doing it a lot longer. And I'll have a night like that where I'll be in the cellar or the Village Underground and like 27 years, and like you have to go into everything you've learned, and maybe you pull out a few laughs, and even then it's a mild titter. There's nights where you just can't do it, and that's a part of it.
But that is like the poster for why fear of public speaking is such a big deal. You're talking to a guy who literally had his ear ripped off in a foreign country and had doctors shouting at him in Germany and in German. And he's going like,
I would have rather been in that emergency room in Munich than on that stage. The only thing I got applause for was when I just looked at the audience and I said, if I was in a pool, I would ask for a life preserver because I'm drowning up here.
You said that?
Yeah.
And I walked off the stage and Judah was there and he goes, dude, it's not as bad as you thought. I said, Judah, I'm never going on stage again. He goes, dude. He goes, don't get me wrong. He goes, you have an advantage over other people. He goes, they were listening. He goes, anyone else goes 4 minutes without a laugh, they're done.
Oh, 4 minutes, 4 minutes
oh,
yeah, that's nice.
4 minutes, a long time.
Do you have tape of that?
I hope not.
That's what you should tape. Like, do you understand in the documentary, if you're doing something, how interesting that is to watch someone bomb for a minute?
Would you watch that for all 4 minutes?
On a loop. I'd literally watch it. I'd plan my Friday around it.
So Judah builds me up by saying I've got something that 4 minutes, they're done. But because people listen to you, and they look me in the eye and goes, dude, don't get me wrong. You got to find a way to make this stuff funny.
Yeah.
And then he proceeds to take me to school, and from that point, he'd bring me on, 4 or 5 clubs in a night, And since I'm more of a storyteller than a joke guy, to get 5 minutes is difficult for me. But I would get in there and I would, work on it, and you start. You get used to it, and you build up that tolerance for like that punishment, And so I want to get out there again before I hit the stage. even though it's going to be a show based on one match 20 years ago, I kind of know where I want to go with it. I still think it's really healthy to get out there and fail on a spectacular level.
It is, because it's one of those things where you do learn from that, and it's a part of it's just a part of it. It's uncomfortable when it happens and it sucks. But when you look at it, what is it really? Like, you really literally are just standing there and people are not giving you the emotional reaction you want. Like, we take it as this horrible rejection, but that's all it is a bunch of people just going, no.
Yes.
That's the fear. No one's hurting you. No one's throwing the fucking glasses at you. You're saying, huh? And they're going, no. That's all it is.
But you're right. It is so exposing.
That's how you feel nude, and you feel like they're right. You feel like every audience that's ever laughed is a fool, and my God, these people collectively have it right. Yeah. I'm shit, and they know it.
Right. They figured me out.
It's ugly.
It's all your insecurities.
Sure.
And they're all like right in front of you.
Yeah.
Did you watch I'm Dying Up Here on Showtime?
I did not know.
Oh, man, I thought they really nailed it. I know it's the 70s.
Is that Jim Carrey's thing?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah, no, I didn't see it.
There's a moment where the young female lead, Grainer, I believe is her last name, and she wants to go and do something other than just I'm the country girl from Wink, Texas, and Goldie, who's amazing. Melissa Leo. She's just amazing. The other club. She's highly advising her against it, and the way they shoot it, she's going on her thing, and you're looking out and shooting her from like over the shoulder, and you see that crowd just nothing, crickets. And you're rooting for her, she's trying something a little out there, and then when she starts to get him, it's almost like the 14th round of Rocky, and I was like, that's exactly what it's like, So I highly advise it,
I'd like to see it. Does she get them in the first set? Like, is she bombing when she tries this, and all of a sudden, halfway through the set, she gets them?
Yes.
Okay, that's fiction. I'd like to. No, she would have eaten her fucking tits for a month.
Did you like doing the reality show?
We did, yeah. We did like it a lot. The opportunity came up, and anytime you can work with your family,
right,
at home for 10 weeks, and do something that I thought turned out to be pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
We really enjoyed it. It was great. We kind of wish in a way we wish we'd done a second season, but on the other hand, I was like, we did one season. The family came out intact.
Right.
We did okay.
Why didn't you do the second one? Was it the network didn't want to, or you guys said no?
I think the WWE was so high on it that they thought it might bring in non-wrestling fans to the network, and I never thought that was I never thought it was realistic, and it didn't happen. It did good ratings for them on the network, and it was an expensive show to make. It was really well done with a top production team, and shooting on location, even though the location was our house. Or the house that we moved into for 10 weeks to look like our house.
Well, you have to for cameras and stuff.
Yeah,
they need something that are wired a certain way.
Yeah, there's no way that they would have been shooting in one room, And I think they just realized that there were other things they could do that would be almost as popular that weren't nearly as expensive.
Now, your daughter became very popular off that. Did you guys only stick to wrestling stuff, though? Because if you wanted to bring in people outside the family, maybe outside the world, you might have had to go into other areas to get people interested.
I think we did a pretty good job. Wrestling
did you? Okay.
It was a thread, her working on her trying to be... I would say trying to be a wrestler, but when you're on the show, you have to say a WWE superstar.
Yeah, she's trying to be a WWE superstar. I was about to say, I don't understand what you're saying right now.
Oh, you don't say wrestler.
I think there's a drinking game every time my daughter says WWE superstar. So
why do they say that? That's just what they...
It's just, to his credit, Mr. McMahon years ago, we're not wrestlers. We're WWE superstars. And his branding can be, sometimes, there are times when he will choose for announcers to not be able to say certain words that don't seem to make sense.
What's a word?
If you have when a guy wins, let me see, you win this thing and you put it over your shoulder, it is a championship.
Strap on. Oh, sorry, wait, hold on. A hat.
A belt.
Oh, belt, okay.
A what?
Belt is forbidden. It's taboo on there. So
no, you can't say I won the belt.
You can't belt, and never a strap. You guys say, I got the strap. with no.
What do you say? I got the WWE Championship belt.
Championship title.
It's a championship title. It's not a belt.
And then you know Braun Strowman is. Braun Strowman's 6'8". He's 360 pounds.
Monster among men.
And yeah, Monster among men. He goes out there. And I'm about ready to intercede, and he goes, "I want my title shot." And I hear Mr. McMahon backstage, "God damn it, not a title shot."
Why not title shot?
I'm thinking, but I don't know why. I'm thinking.
Why is that wrong?
I don't know. It's not wrong. I'm thinking
it's a championship opportunity.
That's exactly what I was.
Is that what he says?
Title shot. And I made sure when I went out there, I said, "So you'd like a championship opportunity?" There's just certain things.
See, obviously, and I'll tell you why I think that's a mistake from the outside. Because by doing that, when you're saying things like belt and title shot, because wrestling has had to kind of come out and go, yes, we're entertainment. But by saying that stuff, it's kind of putting it back into the realm of other combat sports. Like almost if you're using certain combat sport lingo, people know that it's entertainment.
Right, yeah.
But you don't want to separate it so much that it makes it obvious it's only entertainment. Use combat sport lingo.
Right?
Of course they do. So does boxing. Everyone does. I want a shot at the belt. I want the title.
WWE is always... And that's where the wrestling and superstar and wrestler, all that branding comes in because they even wanted to be separated from other
wrestling
organizations. Like there is wrestling and there's combat sports and there's this and there's that and then there's WWE. It's like Disney over here. I
definitely
WWE.
get that, but I think that sometimes you probably don't need to do it because while the branding is brilliant that he's done, you might overdo it, and then certain natural language you don't use, and people are like, oh, it just seems shoehorned. It doesn't seem comfortable.
I'm in complete agreement with you, especially when it comes to Mr. McMahon's disdain for pronouns.
What do you mean?
God damn it.
He hates pronouns? What do you mean?
Him, her, his, their.
Pronouns.
So
he doesn't like pronouns?
So when
them.
This is coming from a guy, #1 New York Times best-selling author. Like, I believe once you establish the subject, you can then use a pronoun.
Sure.
Mark Henry. Mark Henry out there. He's got that bear. He's got that bear hug. We know it's Mark Henry. Mark Henry. He's really. God damn it! Watch those pronouns. Mark Henry. Mark Henry with the, just constant repetition.
Yeah,
it's
and that's I understand that but that's not the New York Times does that. Mr. Foley then went on to say, Mr. Foley, like the New York Times will do something like that.
That's right.
But you can't avoid all pronouns. Pronouns improperly used suck, but improperly used.
Now, I would like you to take a turn at WWE commentary.
I feel like you were the first guy that really started talking about what was going on behind those magical headsets.
Well, yeah, they were magical headsets.
Yeah.
I said they were magical headsets because you put them on and everything you accomplished over the course of the last 15 years just disappears. No. There was a girl named, a female wrestler, Layla. Remember Layla?
Yeah, sure.
And when I returned to WWE after some time off, she was like cowering, backing away. She was terrified of me.
Why?
And she would say that I was like the meanest person she'd ever seen.
Fair.
Based on one interaction she observed with me and Mr. McMahon where I did not take well to being cursed at on the headset,
Oh.
And she just happened to be there where I just snapped, I snapped and I said, I don't care who you are, how much you're worth, you're not going to talk to me that way ever again.
You snapped at him?
Snapped at Mr. McMahon.
Wow.
And so then it was like, 3 years later, where the same finger that was like wagging in his face was dialing the phone and going, hey, can I come home? Can I come back?
Oh, wait, that ended your relationship? Did that end your relationship for a little while?
Yeah, I left for 3 years.
Okay, and how was
same finger, huh?
how was no? It's probably one over actually. one of the fingers. How was Mr. McMahon when you called Mr. McMahon? See how crazy that sounds?
In truth, actually, it'd been a year and a half since we'd spoken, and I got a message on the phone, and he was like, "I know you don't like me, but I know you love this company." There was a time when people were bad mouthing the company. He wanted me to weigh in on my feelings, and I called him back, and I went, "Hello, Vince," and he goes, "Hi, Mick." I said, "I like you." Like I do, deep down.
Sure.
I like him.
You didn't like being spoken to, though?
I didn't like that job. It wasn't the right job for me. Like I was a pat in the back guy, not a kick in the butt guy.
Sure.
And I didn't deal well with that. But that's and I don't know. Like I've talked to other broadcasters, and no one else goes through that. But he's just he cares so much about every aspect of the product, you know, that because in my mind, like you're not calling what you see in the ring, you're calling what you see on the monitor. Like you've got to get into that role where everything you see there becomes real, you know. And it's similar, like when I'm segueing into my new book, Saint Mick.
Right, it's a great book. Yes.
when I have a visit with and I'm not talking so much about the long lines, but like a hospital visit or something where you have some time with a child, like you get into that character to the point where you feel like you're the guy, you know, and that's the biggest.
Because they want the character, the kids.
The kids, yeah. I mean, you know, the kids most of the time they go. I mean, you see it in every movie. Like, all right, I know you work for him. Like in Home Alone. Like I know how it works. You know, I know. Like, so the highest form of flattery. And this is when I started volunteering for a group called Christmas Magic. They called me in. To do their the guy who'd founded this charity after 30 years, he had rotator cuff surgery, couldn't do any lifting, so he asked me if I would take over his role, and I felt like I was being called in from the bullpen, you know, for the 7th game of the World Series, and so I went there, and these are kids in you know, homeless shelters and foster homes, and so I went there, and I go all out, you know, with the beard and you know, whatever mannerisms.
You like Christmas?
I love it, man.
Oh, cool.
I love it. And,
you didn't know?
No.
You did not know?
I did not. I did not. I thought there were snow cones on your shirt. I didn't realize there were little Santa heads upside down.
When I came back a couple of days later for another event, the social workers going, "Do you know what the children were saying on the bus?" And I said, "No, what?" They were going, "That was the real Santa." And it was like the greatest compliment, you know, like that's the biggest compliment. So, like going back, but that's like, you know, you're with that child, you're telling these stories that, you know, that you've come up with. You're trying to make this best experience. If somebody's in your headphone yelling at you, taking you out of that world, it would be really difficult.
Well, are you telling the kids this year that they think they've actually found the corpse of the real Saint Nicholas?
No.
Because they do think they found it, but it's under a marble floor. But the actual Saint Nick, they believe they have located where his body is buried. I would open with that every hospital I go to. But they do think they found it.
I know. I did read that.
He's apparently a very good guy. Well, yeah, but you didn't like being yelled at. So when you guys talk, Vince McMahon seems like the type of guy that he can be like a real
But here's the irony. I did enjoy being yelled at by Stephanie on air.
You did.
You like that?
Well, it's part of the gig, though. You felt it was part of the thing.
Yeah, the headsets, not so much. Stephanie in person, very much.
Vince seems to know that, like, he knows he's a yeller, and he probably knows he can be very harsh. So he seems like the type of guy that can forgive and forget, too. Like, I'm sure he's had enough run-ins with people where he's had to go, you know what, forget it, that was the past.
Yeah, absolutely. I was told...
Like, I want him on this show. Sam won't take him. I would love to get him on this show.
The biggest... I said what I didn't realize is none of it was personal. It feels personal. And then I went up to WWE headquarters to do the Edge and Christian show. And Vince's top producer, Kevin Dunn, asked me to stop by. And he goes, Vince would like to be in touch with you more often. And I went, really? Like he goes, it bothers him. He goes, he has good relationships with people he felt built this company. And he doesn't have that with you. And I said, do you want me to? So I texted him, you know, and I said, hi, Vince, Mick Foley, would you mind if we stayed in touch a little more regularly? I would like that. I said, do you want to talk on the phone in a couple of days? And at that time, I was down from 338 pounds to like 313. And I told him when we talked on the phone, I said, you know, no one's ever told me this, but I'm guessing the reason I'm not on television is because it's difficult to watch me, you know, like I'm having a lot of trouble getting around. I said, I just want you to know I'm working on it, and my goal is to lose 80 pounds by the holidays, you know, 80 pounds in 1 year. And the moment I heard him say, I'm going to hold you to that, it was the moment I knew that I was going to do it, you know. So when I showed up and did it 2 months early, you know, came in at 258 and weighed in for him, he was like a proud father, you know. I'm so proud of you, Mick. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah. So you have a nice relationship.
Yeah, I genuinely, I think he goes so far to say that I love Mr. McMahon.
Aww. Is there anybody that's not? Aww. Is there anybody in the company who isn't afraid of him? I mean, because he's the boss.
Absolutely not.
Even Triple H, you think?
Yeah, I believe. Absolutely.
How did you lose all the weight?
Oh man, that's just not a show for that, is it?
Just going to the gym and eating better.
Smaller meals, more frequently, you lose a lot of the sugar, processed flour, a lot more vegetables. But the hard thing here is have this knee replacement. It's tough, right? They warned me when I had my hip replaced and I was doing the physical therapy. They're like, knee's much tougher. They're like, why? They're like, it takes longer. It hurts worse.
How long so far?
This has only been like 5 weeks. So,
okay.
Oh, wow.
So it was probably ambitious to start a book tour 5 weeks.
Well, you're on you got the cane.
I got the cane, but it hurts at night, and you can't sleep when it hurts. So trying to get sleep has been really difficult.
What do you take for it?
I try to the melatonin. I try to avoid pain pills at all point. And they're like, you stay ahead of the pain. Don't be the macho guy. You can't get through this operation without some type of pain medication. So I try to take it like a little bit before I go to sleep. But even then, man, it's just it's a tough one. And so as that relates to the weight loss, now at like 4 a.m. when I feel those late night binges and I don't have Mr. McMahon's voice going, I'm going to hold you to that. It seems to make perfect sense to have 4 bowls of children's cereal.
Yeah, I understand that. It's hard not to. It's hard not to. You're healing up. But, look, it'll get better.
It will.
It will get better. I'm sure it started already.
Yes, the healing has begun.
Yeah.
I just admitted to loving Mr. McMahon on...
You did.
Okay.
That was okay. It's a smart business move. I get it. That wasn't the dumbest thing. You think I haven't said I love Scott Greenstein and Andrew Moss?
Oh, I love them too.
My favorite people.
Yeah.
One of the things when I started this book, right, it was going to publish it for 100, self-publish it for 100 people.
And that was it?
Yeah, because it was really a very personal book. And Stephanie was one of 2 people convinced we might have a larger audience. Because I talked to her about it. She was like, this sounds really interesting. And then I saw this tweet from Jason, who's been publisher, editor, and publicist, like all in one. And he has his own. I saw that he had tweeted something that his favorite interview he'd ever done was with me. So I went and I checked Jason Pinter out. I was like, oh, he's got his own publishing company. And so this is my pitch, right? You know how you're supposed to put everything you have out there in the pitch. And I was like, I know you guys don't do nonfiction, but if you know a small house that would like to do a very small run and not have much publicity, I've got a project. Because first and foremost, like I want to get out of the process without hating my own book. And that hasn't always happened, you know, because when you get behind it and you did sometimes do 30 book signings, and it's like, I never want to look at it. I understand it's on a shelf and I worked really hard at it. I don't ever want to see it. I don't ever want to read it.
Yeah, because you're done with it.
Yeah, you're done with it. And this one, it was important to me, to not overtalk it. And I was worried that I would come on and start talking wrestling and make headlines for the wrong reasons. But I'm okay if the headline from this is, Mick Foley loves Vince McMahon.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
Mick Foley loves Vince McMahon. Get his new Christmas book.
Yeah, and Santa. By the way, the day after Christmas, are you like Christmased out? Like a right already? Like you have to be
or are you depressed?
Or depressed? You must. You're not sick of Christmas ever. When do you get sick of it? When do you not want to think about Christmas?
Never. It's always on my mind.
In April, you like Christmas?
It's like if Willie Nelson sang a Christmas song and said, "You were always on my mind," and substitute a woman for Christmas.
But does the day of Christmas seem anticlimactic because you talk about it so much?
No, I actually had my best visit on Christmas Day. I had a really great visit with a child who was so weary in the hospital. I didn't think he'd remember the visit, and I went about 5 p.m. Christmas Day and. Felt like it was, among the finest performances I'd ever, it was a great moment for me. Like, and just looking the boy's mother and aunt, I was there for about 50 minutes and they did.
You went as Santa?
Yeah, I went as Santa. And it was a really great moment. And then the next day I heard about some guys who had, rampaged through a house in Lindenhurst and taken their Christmas decorations, like a 10-foot tall minion. And so I reached out on Facebook, found the woman. It was a news story, and I said, "Could I come by with a new minion?" And so I did a visit to their house on the 27th, like a Santa visit, and that was pretty magical too. So, no.
What have you? Go ahead.
Yeah, there is usually a downtime after Christmas. A lot of guys miss it terribly, and then I just look forward to doing it again and try to find something else.
Okay.
Yeah.
What if you told your younger kids, like when you started doing the Santa thing, do you tell your younger kids, like, hey, good news, guys, I work for Santa now?
Yeah, exactly. Like, or do you tell them there's no Santa, or do they not know it?
What the?
Oh, I'm saying.
We were 7-second beat.
What are you talking about? Are you out of your mind?
I don't usually say this, but you son of a bitch. No, they knew they were still in that magic age, and I would just explain he can't be everywhere, especially in December. It's not. He can feasibly make it around the world, given time zone changes.
Yeah, sure, yes. A lot of technical issues.
There's a lot of technical issues. If you start out at the Isle of Aleutians, there is theoretically a way he can make the journey, but he can't be everywhere, at every mall, every day. So he needs some help on the ground.
He does.
And what I have, you know what? Let me see if I can find my bag of Jason outside.
That's probably where it always
my
is.
Bag.
Oh.
Where's the Foley luggage? Oh, there it is. All right, you know what?
Sam, get his luggage. Don't make Mick get up. He's
hold
hurt.
me that the black briefcase, okay? So when I'm like, I know that it's not a book for children, even though it's like a G-rated book.
Sure.
So I'll have children at the event, and I think this clears everything up in a hurry. Hold on, you guys could just
talk among ourselves. That's fine. We only have a couple of minutes left.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be.
Boom! Here it is.
Okay.
The letter I received from Santa.
Oh, wow. You
That's
got
cool.
a letter
It's
from
laminated
Santa.
and everything.
I laminate it so that the children can look at it. It says, "Dear Mick, as you know, Christmas is the most wonderful time of the year.
He sounds like Vince.
I look forward to spreading joy throughout the world, but as Santa grows older, wish lists grow longer, expectations grow larger. I've come to understand that I can no longer complete all of my Santa duties on my own. So it is, after great and careful thought, with great respect and appreciation of the love with which you hold Christmas in your heart for the entirety of the year, that I ask if you would consider joining my team as an ambassador for the very real spirit of Santa Claus. From this moment on, should you accept my heartfelt offer, you'll be known to me, the elves, and Mrs. C as Santa Mick, your friend Santa." So
Hey.
for like an 8 or 9-year-old, which don't listen to your show, right? Not the demographic. I think you get an extra year in the magic age.
I think most 8 or 9-year-olds would read that and go, of all of the centuries of Santa, now he steps down and I don't get him. That's what I would say.
And I get this guy instead.
Oh my God, you're the new Fred Flintstone. I want the old Fred Flintstone. I don't like the new one.
Sam, look at this handwriting.
I mean, it's amazing. It looks like Santa's handwriting.
Yeah, handwriting.
It looks like it to me. By the way, our pals at Barnes & Nobles in Yonkers are tweeting us a photo of St. Mick
Yes.
on shelves now.